Software engineer versus product manager. Almost every single college student or recent graduate that I see around me wants to become either of these. But what do these guys actually do? And in this video, I'm gonna compare these two roles, comparing their responsibilities, career paths, compensations, and so much more. But you might be thinking that who am I to talk about these two roles? Well, I've worked in the past as a software engineer at Amazon before switching to product management at a funded startup here in Bangalore. So without further ado, let's start the video. So point number one, roles and responsibilities. Well, as a software engineer, your primary job is to write code, test code, review code. You're often engaged in these design discussions, HLD discussions, LLD discussions with your other team members. तुम बहुत टाइम ट्रबल शूटिंग में अपना टाइम जाओगे. तुम्हारा कोई सर्विस है जहाँ पे कुछ फट रहा है, जहाँ पे कुछ टिकट रेज हुआ है, वो तुम सॉल्व कर रहे हो. You'll spend a lot of your time in code reviews as well, which is getting your code reviewed by other team members. And you can say that as a junior software engineer, 80% of your time is actually writing code and testing it, right? And जितना तुम एक्सपीरियंस होते जाते हो उतना तुम्हारा राइटिंग कोड वाला पार्ट कम होता जाता है, एंड योर मैनेजरियल, मेंटरिंग अदर पीपल, वो ज़्यादा बढ़ता जाता है. एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द करियर पाथ यू कैन चूज whether you want to be a manager or whether you want to be, say, an individual contributor where you're mentoring, you're discussing. पूरा जो हाई लेवल डिज़ाइन होता है, जो आर्किटेक्चरल डिस्कशन होता है, आर्किटेक्चरल डिसीजंस होते हैं, वो तुम लेते हो. आई टॉक अ लॉट मोर अबाउट दिस इन द करियर पाथ सेक्शन, सो वेट फॉर दैट. एंड फॉर अ प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर, आई थिंक द बेस्ट वे टू डिफाइन देम इज दैट दे सिट बिटवीन डिजाइन, टेक एंड बिजनेस. दैट इज द प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर रेस्पॉन्सिबल टू डिफाइन द प्रोडक्ट स्ट्रैटेजी, द प्रोडक्ट विजन, कि एक प्रोडक्ट में बनाओ, उसमें कितना स्पीड होना चाहिए, उसमें कितना लैग होना चाहिए, उसमें कितना सुंदर दिख रहा है, उसमें कैसा मार्केटिंग होगा. एवरीथिंग शुड बी डिफाइंड बाय द प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर हु इज हैंडलिंग द प्रोडक्ट. So most of the time goes into talking to customers, understanding that okay, customers are facing these kind of problems, then taking those problems and identifying solutions for it, writing down PRDs, talking with the design team, talking with the marketing team, talking with the tech team to understand that okay, how are we going to build this, how are we going to design this, how are we going to market this, and then finally also understanding the business model, the business requirements for this, and then merging all of this together into a document, and you finally get it approved by your manager or तुम्हारे C-suite में कोई है, CEO वगैरह जो product देख रहा है. And then you finally hand it over to the tech people, the marketing people, and then like I told you, the tech people, that is the engineering team, takes this and then decide okay, इसका HLD कैसा होगा, LLD कैसा होगा, सब कुछ कैसा होगा, इसका कैसा architecture बनेगा. All of these decisions are then taken by them. But the primary strategy and the vision about the product is defined by the product manager. Point number two, which is the career path. Now, career path for a software engineer is almost very similar to every organization out there, whether it's a startup or it's a large company, it's a FANG company. You start from SD1, SD2, SD3, ये generally होते हैं. Then उसके बाद तुम्हारा role mostly आ जाता है staff software engineer, then a principal software engineer. And how do these roles actually differ? So as an SD1, like I told in there, the 80% of your job is actually writing code, and बाकी 20% तुम्हारा meetings वगैरह, मतलब टीममेट से बात करना, इस सब में चला जाता है, मैनेजर से बात करना. As you become an SD2s, you then start mentoring a few people like the SD1s in your team, या फिर कुछ इंटर्न आते हैं तो उनको मेंटर करना स्टार्ट करो, तो वो 80% तो धीरे धीरे तुम्हारा काम कम हो जाता है. Then as an SD3, तुम जो भी HLD, LLD के डिसीजंस होते हैं तुम्हारे ऊपर से पास होना चाहिए, राइट? तो SD3 होल्ड अ लॉट मोर power in that कि पूरा decisions, architectural decisions are usually taken by them. And then when you become a staff software engineer, SD3 एक टीम का देखता है, एक staff software engineer multiple SD3s का देखता है. तो SD3s जो architectural decisions लेते हैं, that usually gets vetted by the staff software engineer, which handles a lot of team. And then a principal software engineer, then बहुत सारा टीम का अगर org है, कैसा एक org मूव कर रहा है टेक्निकली, all of those decisions, the business impact, everything is taken by the principal software engineer. Now around the SD3 role, you actually get a choice that hey, do you want to become a manager or do you want to become an IC? IC होता है individual contributor. तो यहाँ पे तो you actually still write code, even though you're a principal software engineer, even though you're a staff software engineer, you still write code. However, if a lot of people want to take up the role of a engineering manager, वो वाला भी एक path है, तो वो चूज कर लोगे, then you become the manager of your team, where you're managing the team, you're discussing कि अच्छा इसका timeline वगैरह सब कुछ, business impact, everything is owned by you. Your team's impact, your team's business, your team's deliverability, everything is owned by you. So these are the different career paths, and that is mostly similar for all the kinds of like funded startups, early stage startups, FANG, सब में mostly same है. And इसका end क्या होता है? So this usually ends like इसका last stage होगा, I think, as a VP of tech in a startup, or maybe a CTO in a startup, or in a FANG or a very big tech company, you actually become a VP of tech. वहाँ पे जाके रुक जाता है. And now for product manager, I think it's very similar to this. It starts with an associate product manager level. उसमें 1-2 कर देते लोग. Then you become a product manager, उसमें भी 1-2 कर देते. Then you become a senior product manager, उसमें भी 1-2 कर देते. Then you become a group product manager. Then you become a director product manager, and then finally you become a VP of product management. And the roles and responsibilities are exactly similar to how I described in tech. कि पहले तुम जब associate PM होते हो तब mostly you are driving very little features. तुम बहुत ही एक छोटा सा फीचर का पार्ट हो जो तुम हैंडल कर रहे हो एंड टू एंड. देन व्हेन यू बिकम अ पीएम यू हैंडल अ मच बिगर सरफेस एरिया, राइट. देन तो जो सीनियर पीएम होता है तुम और भी बड़ा सरफेस एरिया देख रहे हो. ऐसे सरफेस एरिया बढ़ता रहता है. योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इंक्रीजेज, योर टीम इंक्रीजेज, ऑल ऑफ दीज. तो ये है मोस्टली द करियर पाथ. वेरी सिमिलर टू इंजीनियरिंग. पीएम में भी द लास्ट स्टेज ऑफ अ पीएम इन स्टार्टअप सीन. स्टार्टअप में वो वीपी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट बन जाएंगे या फिर एक सीपीओ बन जाएंगे विच इज चीफ प्रोडक्ट ऑफिसर. एंड इन अ बिग टेक कंपनी वो भी उधर वीपी ऑफ प्रोडक्ट बन जाएंगे. आई थिंक दैट इज द हाईएस्ट रोल दैट एनीवन कैन गेट देयर. By the way, all of this information you can actually find on levels.fyi, तो go check that out. वहाँ पे तुमको कोई भी कंपनी, मोस्टली बड़े कंपनीज एंड कुछ फंडेड स्टार्टअप्स भी हैं, वहाँ पे उनका करियर लेवल मतलब कैसा होता है, करियर पाथ, वो सब मेंशन्ड है. सो गो चेक इट आउट. Now point number 3, which is compensation, and I know this is something that you have been waiting for. So for that I actually researched a bit about like कोई benchmark वगैरह है कि नहीं for these kind of things, and I found this very detailed benchmarking setup which was done by Ankur Wariku for his startup which was nearby, जो Groupon का part था. Take a look at this Google sheet and you will actually get a very rough and good idea about how the compensation actually looks like for a software engineer as well as a product manager. These numbers actually make a lot of sense. However, the minimum can be a lot more minimum and the maximum can be a lot more maximum. Depends on the kind of startup, or given that you are in a service company or a product company, or that the product company is actually a big fan like Google, Amazon वगैरह, उसमें सबसे बहुत ज़्यादा भी मिल सकता है. So it can vary. This actually covers most of the compensation benchmark. So I'll post all of these links down in the description. So go check that out. Point number 4, which is the work-life balance. Well, as a software engineer, it can actually vary from company to company. Startups में generally work-life balance थोड़ा difficult होता है because it's a startup. You have to push constantly. You have to launch every day. All of these things are there. तो वहाँ पे scene थोड़ा difficult होता है. But it becomes more and more predictable when you join a big tech company like Amazon, Google, Microsoft. In सब में the work-life balance is actually pretty good. And I know that you must have heard some stories कि हाँ भाई Amazon में खराब है या फिर इसमें खराब है. That actually depends on team to team. So the team that I worked in Amazon, it was actually very good work-life balance. I really loved working there. So वहाँ पे work-life balance बहुत ही अच्छा ही था. And particularly ever since COVID came in, there has been a lot of opportunities for remote work. तो वहाँ पे work-life balance बहुत अच्छा होता है, especially in startups and as well as in big tech companies. So Microsoft is also almost remote scene है. Amazon में कुछ teams remote है, and there are a lot of companies, a lot of startups especially जो remote तो है ही. तो work-life balance तो वैसे differ करता है. तो it बहुत luck based है कि तुम्हारा luck कैसा है. But majority work-life balance is good enough, except on on-call days. You know right, on-call कैसा होता है. फट गया है तुमको देखना पड़ेगा. Those things are always there. But उसके अलावा generally work-life balance statistically it's good. Whereas for a product manager is also very different for a startup and a big tech company. Big tech company में शायद work-life balance अच्छा हो सकता है. I'm not really sure. But in a startup scene, since you're responsible for everything, right? You're responsible for business, design, tech, anything that comes up, any issue that comes up, you're the first one that is put on call, and तुमको सब कुछ देखना पड़ेगा, developer को बुलाना पड़ेगा, designer को बुलाना पड़ेगा, देखना पड़ेगा. Particularly managing between all of these different teams, coordination, getting these documents done and everything, this role can become a bit hectic, especially in startups. Startups में जितने भी product managers से I've talked, the work-life balance is tough. Go up to 9 to 11 hours easily, whereas for software engineers it's around 8 to 9 hours. Push होके 10 जा सकते in a startup. But in a big tech company, I think it again becomes more and more predictable because the products are already made, everything is already set up for you. Whereas in a startup, तुम ही खुद बना रहे हो, तुम ही सब कुछ बना रहे हो. The product is very new, you're about to get customers and all, so you have a lot more responsibility in your hands. And finally, point number 5, which is the market outlook. Well, for software engineers especially, the demand is always skyrocketing. You always need more software engineers regardless of whatever is going on, recession or kuch bhi ho. If you're a good software engineer, you will get hired, right? इसके 2 साल पहले क्रिप्टो था, ब्लॉकचेन था, अभी एआई है. आई नो पीपल आर लिटिल स्केप्टिकल कि एआई में ये डेविन आ गया, ये आ गया, तो विल सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर बिकम लेस. नो, इट विल एक्चुअली एम्पावर यू एंड इट विल एक्चुअली एम्पावर यू टू बिल्ड मोर स्टफ, लॉन्च मोर स्टफ. तो सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स का रोल, उनका डिमांड तो बढ़ता ही जाएगा. इट्स नॉट लाइक देयर गोना कम डाउन एनी मोमेंट नाउ. Whereas for product manager, I think पहले क्या होता था, there was a design specific product manager, business specific product manager, engineering specific product manager. Specific नहीं होता था, मतलब these guys were very much inclined towards कि मैं tech heavy product manager हूँ, someone else is design heavy product manager. I think eventually with the oncoming of AI, ये सबको club करके एक single full stack product manager आ जाएगा. So that way product manager as a role will decrease, but obviously product manager also with so much products being built on a day-to-day basis, especially with AI and नया technology तो आता ही जाएगा, right? So product manager also, the demand is also equally good. But the demand for product manager is good but not as good as software engineer. Well, तो अगर fundamentally देखोगे, क्योंकि one product manager usually suffices for around 10 software engineers. So one product manager is needed to manage at least 9 to 10 software engineers. This is usually seen, right? तो अगर 100 job openings है software engineer के, that means there will only be 10 product manager openings there, right? So the market will be always more tough for you, but still these are the two most sought after roles. So तुमको चिंता करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. So you'll have to study hard and get those case studies in. इनका दोनों का demand हमेशा रहेगा, at least for the next 5 to 6 years. So this was it, guys. Software engineer versus product manager. What do you want to become? Do let me know in the comments below. And why do you want to become a software engineer, product manager? Do write that down as well. See you guys in the next video.